All right, y'all. Hello, friends. Hello, hello, hello. We are here. We are officially live. Man, I'm all red and stuff. This lighting is not good for my skin tone. Matt is here, but
I'm here. I'm just also on Instagram.
he's off to the side. Hi, everybody. Friends, Matt is over handling any comments. So if you're waving or you're commenting on Facebook, Matt will handle that. He'll also chime in every once in a while. I am super stoked to do this. So basically, thanks for joining us. This is Mindset Squared. Guys, I'm so excited. We came up with this in I don't know. It didn't take that long. It came together pretty organically, but I was like, I don't know, it'd be like a no BS roundtable discussion, And Malik was like, no, it'd be like a square. Like, I like that it's squared because we're living in squares right now on our screens. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing. So then I was like, but if I say square table discussion, that will confuse people. So we went with roundtable discussion, no BS, because really, I just want us to chat like from the heart about these different topics, because I think that they're all super prevalent in our days. And I just feel really lucky to know some cool people like y'all who happen to have experience with different things. And today we're going to chat about anxiety and depression. So real quick, back to the Mindset Squared, where that came from was I was thinking about exponential growth and having a growth mindset. And I thought that was kind of a cool reason to go with squared. And then Matt said, the math professor, of course, if you square a negative or a positive number, you get a positive result, always. And I thought, oh my God, that is just perfect. So let's apply that to real life. I really want people who are listening to engage. If you have any questions or comments, please. And I want you to walk away with potentially some tools to help you, or that you could help somebody else with these things. So let's dive right in. I invited Malik and Kelly because, Malik and I co-hosted a podcast for a little while, a few years ago.
In the day.
Hey, that was a good time. And so I knew that if I called him 48 hours before I needed him to just talk, he'd be fine with that. And Kelly is a licensed professional counselor, mental health counselor. So she talks all day about this stuff, and she's great. She invited me onto a panel discussion that we did earlier this year, and it went super well. That was live up in Fort Myers. I really enjoyed that a lot. So Kelly, Malik, thank you guys so much for being here. Y'all are
Pleasure to be here.
So that's it with the intro. Basically, obviously we're in these crazy times. Like this is our living room. Welcome to our home. If you hear meowing in the background, we just got a new kitten yesterday. So our cats are confused, and there's a lot.
My friends are getting animals. I feel like all my friends have gotten animals, like chickens, hamsters, like a bunch of my friends.
I know. A lot of people, because they want to get their own eggs.
Smart.
Which when we moved in here, we have like an acre. And I've never, being a city girl growing up, I never had land. So I was like, oh my God, we have an acre. We're going to get chickens. And Matt was like, there's a lot more that goes into having chickens than just having the land. I was like, no, it's fine. We did not get chickens. And that's not a surprise to anybody who knows me.
We did plant a couple of fruit trees out back.
Oh, nice.
I'm glad those weren't chickens.
It did not go well.
Not good.
It did not go well. Irma came right after, actually. So also, I just want to note that Matt, this is, in terms of this topic, I personally actually don't have any experience with anxiety and depression. I happen to be the type of person my whole life who people have just always kind of come to open up to and ask for advice. And I kind of became notorious back in the day. My friends would always say, I don't even want to ask you because you're going to tell me something I don't want to hear. You're going to be right. I'm not going to want to do it. And then and so they would still ask me, but they would choose to listen or not, which is fine. That's always your choice. And again, I don't know why. I speak from my gut, from my heart, what I feel like seems like a good idea. So for me, anxiety and depression is not actually something I've dealt with. However, Matt has. And
in fact, I'm freaking out right now.
He's freaking out. But when we got married, and when you get married, to become one, which by the way, congrats, Malik. Been married not even like a month, I feel like, right?
Hey man, we got married right before the world started to end. We got married like literally a month before the outbreak, and so we're 2 months in.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Baby coming July 2nd.
Yeah, baby coming. Woo-hoo. It's exciting. So, but when I learned that was a big struggle for him, and I started to understand it, I realized I needed more tools in my toolbox to support him better. So that was kind of why, for me, that's really my only experience. You guys have way more than I do. So would you like to say anything before they introduce themselves? Would you like to give a little bit of background on your history and experience?
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I sort of working my way backwards. I'm now at a point where after wrestling with anxiety for between 16 and 17 years and being on and off medication 3 different times, I now take almost any opportunity that I can to engage in and with other people who are currently struggling with anxiety. I don't feel like I have as much experience with depression, although there were twinges of that. And if I can share any of the tools that I amassed during the last 16 years to try to give somebody a leg up, that's something that I consider a privilege. And anytime anyone sort of opens themselves up to anyone really to talk about something that's that personal and that intimate and that side of that inside of their own head, I commend anybody who is willing to talk about the struggle that they're having. So I don't know, I don't even know if I know when it started for me, but I know the first time I called one of my siblings and said, hey, remember that woman who you told me you used to talk to? Can I have her number? And that was after the third night of sitting on the floor at the foot of my bed, crying into my comforter and not knowing why. I decided, I think maybe I should get another perspective on this and see if somebody can tell me what the hell's going on. And that's sort of when the journey started. And I'm very happy to say that as of this summer, I will be 2 years off of medication. And I've already done some personally really incredible things for myself that demonstrate to myself that I've made a lot of progress and that I'm in a lot better place, and that as much as anyone can be in control of anything, I'm a lot more in control now than I used to be. And so I'm stoked to talk to the two of you and to be here with you, and so glad that other people are tuning in and that this is going to be recorded so that you can pull tools from this at a later date also.
Thank you. You're the best. All right, so I want to jump right in from there. And Kelly, ladies first, why don't you give us just a quick intro on yourself, please, and your experience with anxiety and depression.
Absolutely. So my name is Kelly Houseman. I am a licensed counselor in the state of Michigan. I also have my own private practice up here, which is going into my 5th year doing that. I also write a lot of self-help articles, especially centered around mental health on my blog, Kelly's Reality. And yeah, Melissa and I have done an awesome workshop in January, which was fantastic. And it was a lot about motivation, not so much mental health, but just living your best life. And that's what I feel like my purpose in life is, here to help other people live their best life. So I'm really excited to share some of my knowledge, hear what you guys have to say, and yeah, just get everyone in a good headspace, especially right now. We need it more than ever.
Awesome. Thank you. Malik, on the mic.
Yeah, man. My name is Malik. I know Melissa for a couple of years, but as far as my journey in mental health, it's really been. I think we all have mental health, right? So my experience though has been in 2015. I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety pretty much at the same time. 2011, like I lost my mom, and then 2013 I lost my dad, like right out of high school and then right out of college. And then I was like working at a church. I was trying to help people. I've historically have like done. I've historically tried to help myself by helping other people. And in that, I think neglected my own self for a while, and then it's kind of culminating in 2015, where I catch myself driving down the road, and just kind of and if you knew me at the time, you would never think I would have these type of thoughts, but like, what if I just drive this car off the road? What if I just, end my life? And when I started having those thoughts and talking to my, at the time, a certain couple friends I had, I decided to go to therapy. And then my therapist that I found was really helpful, was able to kind of see some signs, diagnose, and then I get the help that I needed. So I mean, since then, since 2015, I've been on and off medication, finding different ways to advocate for mental health, advocate for myself, help myself, take care of myself, learning how to be, instead of always trying to help other people, just, learning to help myself. And so in that, reading a whole lot of books and trying to become self-aware. And I've been off medication for a year, but, and I'm excited about that, but I also, I never want to like make people feel bad for being on medication either. So, because I would hear that when I'd feel so bad that I was still on medication whenever I heard people off medication. So sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. And, so I think in my journey, just learning more about self-care, learning more about my mindset, which is why I love what you're doing with this whole show or podcast, whatever this is. But and then I just got married and have some kids. Having a kid, one kid.
Whoa.
See how that's how it happens. That's how it happens,
Well, and also Malike is sitting in front of, you can't read what's behind his big old head there, but it says Curate Entertainment.
Oh yeah.
Malike is a bit of an entrepreneur. He and I met because we I think we've known each other like 4 years actually, if you want to be.
For a little bit.
I think it was that wedding. It was Emily and oh my God, I can't remember his name. Anyways, that wedding, the one that was so hot in August, and like they did like 74 minutes worth of speeches, and we were dying.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. Anyway, so Malike is a super talented DJ. He's been going live actually a couple times a week over at the Curate Entertainment page, and I'm dancing while I'm cooking. It's so good.
He's not kidding.
I'm really not kidding. It's really kind of embarrassing actually.
That was great.
And yeah, so cool. Let's do this thing. I want to start with anxiety and depression because they go hand in hand. I feel like you say one and you just say the other, but they're not actually the same thing. So Kelly, could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So basically some symptoms of depression. One of the key words that often comes up is loss of interest, not motivated. So some symptoms of depression might be, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, hopelessness. That's kind of the cornerstone of depression, is just feeling like there's not much left to live for. There's not much hope. You might be sleeping too much, irritable. Again, the loss of interest in things that really used to excite you, that's gone. And, aches, pains, headaches. A lot of times the mind-body connection is so strong, especially with depression. You're really feeling it in so many different ways. And of course, the sad, empty, anxious thoughts that can go along with that. So that's some of the cornerstones of depression. Anxiety is feeling nervous, tense, having a sense of impending kind of doom, panic, danger. And physical symptoms of that might include racing heart, sweaty palms, shaking, feeling weak, tired, having trouble concentrating. And they both present a little bit differently and kind of different mindsets as well.
Okay, so Malike, that all rings true to you. Have you had all those symptoms at some point?
Yo, it's crazy. When someone names these off, I'm like, damn, like, you just like, you realize like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. One of the funniest ones or the most unexpected one of depression is irritability. I just used to, like, for a while, I just thought I was like an a-hole. Like I was just like, I felt annoyed by everything, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? And then I, somehow I came across it, but it was like, oh, irritability is a symptom of depression. And the hard thing about it all is that, all right, the hard thing about the tricky game with depression and anxiety is that your brain is constantly telling you that you don't have it. So you're just making that up. You're like minimizing and downplaying and shaming yourself for, even though you can, everything you name other than sweaty palms, I feel like I felt, right? So, but I could somehow still go, no, I'm good. It's like saying like, what's the symptom of, having a headache or your arm broken, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm fine. And you're looking at a bleeding hand, so I've experienced all those things for sure. Other than the sweaty palm, I've never experienced that.
Have you experienced sweaty palms?
I'm having sweaty palms right now.
I've never been one to sweat through the hands. Like, I don't know.
I think though, one of the things, Malik, specifically what, some of the symptoms you're just talking about in that particular struggle is that the thing that compels us to downplay those symptoms, because I'm in the same boat with you. Nobody, when I would tell people that I struggle with anxiety, they're like, "Are you kidding me? You're like the most chill person I know."
Sure.
And
High functioning.
what's that?
High functioning.
Oh,
High functioning, because yeah.
But that's just it, is that you have to keep functioning. You've got to survive. You still have to go out into the world. You still have to go to school. You still have to go to work. You have to interact with people. And so those of us who struggle with either of those things or both, we have to put on this mask. And I think most people, anybody who's listening right now, for sure, you know that you have to wear the mask because you got to keep going. But that doesn't mean that it's not real. It's very real for you, and that's a hugely important component that you don't want to downplay. Just because nobody else can see it, you're not letting anybody else see it, it doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even now, Kelly, you can speak to this. Even when you go to the doctors, one of the things you fill out is like a depression diagnosis form. I mean, my gave me one of those when he first was, he said, "You think you might be depressed?" And I laughed him out the room pretty much. I was like, "Bro, do you know who I bring? I'm the life of the party, bro. Like, what are you talking about?" And I try to laugh him off. He gave me the test. I took the test, and I was like, he's like, "You passed with flying colors," and that's not a good thing, So, but I'm pretty sure they give you that test even when you go to the doctors now,
Yeah, and especially too, I work with a lot of postpartum moms. So there used to be, you'd have to wait to see your OB again until 6 weeks after having a baby. And now they're trying to get the new moms in 2 weeks to just do that, to do the postpartum depression screening too. So it's becoming something that's more widely recognized in the medical community too. Like, we have to get this under control. And it's interesting how you guys were both saying, I felt like I was good. I was playing this role. And I often think that people that are struggling with mental issues, if you will, are some of the best actors and actresses that I know, because they can go out into the world. I mean, look at even Robin Williams, for example. He was one of the funniest guys who could make you laugh. You'd never in a million years think that, how could he be sad? He's laughing and making people happy. But again, you feel like you have to put on this role, and it's like, okay. And I believe Matt said, you still have to go out and function. You still have to do it. And then the problems occur is when, that door closes, when you're home, when you're laying in bed, and when your role is gone and you realize, okay, this is me, I'm not faking it anymore. Like, there's stuff going on that I can't handle, and I can't fake my way or act my way out of this.
So is it all in our heads? Is it all in your heads? Like, what is it? What's happening?
Oh, man.
I think there is some component to that, and two, that it's almost like the nature versus nurture debate that we often have with other topics too. I certainly absolutely believe that, especially in cases of severe depression, postpartum psychosis, there can be a medical reason, a chemical imbalance for that. But oftentimes too, I'll have people come in and maybe they're on the fence about medication or something like that, wondering, okay, is this all in my head? And I say, okay, certainly. So my way of viewing therapy and medication, I am a huge believer in medication. I believe that it can serve its purpose, and I am, 100%. But I also like to couple that with talk therapy, which is what I do. I think that's a piece that's missing in a lot of treatment now, because certainly, again, medication's amazing. It can help so tremendously. But I often think that, I guess, the in your head piece is where I would come in. So the medication can help with the chemicals, the balancing everything out. But I feel like a lot of times the piece where the talk therapy, the figuring out, okay, well, let's take all this tornado going on in your head and put it on paper and talk it through and get some kind of plan for you so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. So I think that's kind of my job, is the in your head piece for the therapy itself.
Yeah. I would love to speak into that too. Like, one of my my therapist prescribed me. Well, he didn't prescribe me. My doctor did. I had the medication for like a month without actually taking it. And I really had some hard conversations with him, because I'm like, this is like, a quick fix. Like, this is not me. I've always been I've always tried to be self-aware and work through my issues. And this felt like some sort of like cop out, I'm going to take medication and become a zombie and become this. And, it really explained to me, and he really said it the same way Kelly said it. It was like, this is not to fix a medication. There is a chemical, there is possibility. And his belief was that there is chemical imbalance, but he's like, also a lot of your suffering comes from your mind and the thoughts, right? Like the resistance to so like you might be depressed and you might be anxious, like chemically, but then you create a whole nother level of suffering by how you think about your depression and about how you think about your anxiety. And so we can have pain, right? Like there's pain, we experience pain every day, but then we can create suffering, which is what I'm learning. We create the suffering around the pain, which is the resistance and all the thoughts we have. Oh, I'm a horrible person. Oh my God, how could you be depressed? Who's going to love you? That for me is where the suffering happens, you know, like, cause I feel like I feel depressed every day. I feel empty all the time. There's a lot of times where I tell myself, Malik, you should feel happy about this. This is a really cool thing happening. You know, even like having a baby, there's times where I feel empty about it, or I got married, I feel empty. And it's like, Malik, you should and that word right there, should, has made me suffer so much in my life. Like you should be, and my therapist, and this is a very common thing in the mental health, is stop shitting on yourself. And so that's where the suffering has come from me. Like, cause medication has helped me, like, especially when I'm low, when I'm really low, that's when it helps. But like managing it day to day, I don't think I need medication. It's more so, hey man, you got to meditate. You got to, you know, all that stuff.
We'll get into those tools a little bit later, but
comment on meds
I want
quick?
you to, yes, and there's something that triggered me that I want to make sure you say, but go for it.
I just want to comment on meds real quick. Kelly and Malik totally agree. The way I ended up thinking about it as a result of meeting with my doctor, and then also a few therapists and counselors who I worked with over the years, is that, and Malik, I like what you were saying about, you know, if you broke your arm, you'd have symptoms, right? But then what would you do? You would go and get a cast. Right. And you would get the cast, and that's the instant, like, hide you over fix. But then you still also have to go to physical therapy, because otherwise you're going to lose range of motion, you're going to lose muscle strength in that arm, and that's going to be worthless. So in order for me to survive taking the medication, because I'll tell you what, I hated that blue pill. I fucking hated that blue pill. I will not be defined by that blue pill. Every time I took it, I was like, one day, I'm not going to take this blue pill. Yeah. I was angry about the pill that was helping me. But that thing was just a crutch, and there's definitely a utility in taking that medication if you need it, just to dial down your symptoms so you can get your shit together, and so you can go to physical therapy, using the arm example, right? So you can go to counseling, and you can talk to somebody, and you can try to figure out for yourself, right? It's not going to be somebody else telling you the answer, but so that you can come to terms with what's going on. And Kelly, like the postpartum thing, I totally believe that there are physical, real things in our lives that can happen, that can cause the chemical imbalance. And it's possible, for sure, through talk therapy, to go back and revisit those things and really come to terms with them. And if you're on the meds, so that you can get to your appointments on time and be conversational and root around inside of your own head and figure out sort of where that started, I think there's huge value in the meds, and you don't have to be on medication forever. Once you get a handle on things, which is easier said than done, of course, but then you can come off the meds, just like you get the cast taken off, just like you don't have to use crutches anymore. Absolutely. Yep. They're not necessarily the right move for everybody, I don't think, but if you're on meds, or you're thinking about going on meds, or somebody just suggested to you medication, don't be freaked out. It doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't have to define you.
And something that he would say to me when he was on his journey of coming off, like thinking about coming off the meds and telling me, like, I don't want to be on these anymore, was that it's not that it would just take the lows away, it would take the highs away too. Oh, yeah. And it's like he couldn't, right, it just like levels you in the middle. So like what you just said, Malik, it's like something super exciting would happen, or I'd be like, you know me, I'm like all energy, right? Like, and I like run in the room and I'm like, and I tell him something and then he's like, cool. And I was like, did you hear what I said? And that was
zombie.
Right, that zombie effect.
Yeah, sucks. Now I cry all the time. Every night when we watch TV, I get teary-eyed about something. It doesn't get anything, dude.
It's true.
It's insane.
Anyway, okay. Anything else on meds? Anybody? No? Okay. So, Malik, let's go backwards real quick. What was, so you lost your mom in 2011 and your dad in 2013, is that right?
Yep.
Obviously, condolences always. That is not cool. But you feel like those two things sort of kicked this all off for you, or you already had struggles before?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you wish you could teleport back in time and go, how did I feel? Like, what was that? Because now my current reality feels like how I've always felt. Like I don't, it's like I always don't remember a life without anxiety or depression, which sucks, but I definitely haven't always felt like this. I mean, high school, I've always had really high highs and so maybe I have, I've been, I've always been really high, like walk in the room, ray of sunshine. And then I've always retreated back into my own shell of myself and, no one would see, and then I'd just come out of it. And I always thought, oh, Malik, you're just really everyone's always called me really sensitive and now realizing I am sensitive, but it's not me. I have a sensitive amygdala. Am I saying that?
Amygdala.
Yeah. A part of my brain that is fight or flight. It's very sensitive. It's always in danger. I always feel like I'm in danger. So I've always felt that anxiety. My mom and dad were separated. My mom was working nights. I was always kind of fight or flight anyways. The depression is what threw me off. I felt like, the depression is like, oh, this is new, not being able to come out of these lows, the lows that lasted maybe a day or two became a low that lasted a month or two, So I would say when my mom passed away in 2011, again, my coping mechanism was faced outward. It wasn't like an inward sort of searching all the time. It was like, all right, I was a youth pastor. I was a teacher, right? I worked at a youth center. I've done a lot of like outreach. I've always helped people. Life of the party, DJ, like everything I've done has been like outward facing. And that's part of my personality. So that's fine. But after 2013, after my dad passed, I kind of doubled down on it pretty much. Went full-time at the church, became a full-time youth pastor, was teaching at middle school, 150 kids, you know what I'm saying? So it was like a lot. And then I quit my job at the church, quit my job as teaching, and then like it was pretty much like a church split type thing that happened. And in that process, that's when the reality of who I am. There was no imposter. There was nothing I can do to sort of cope at that point other than deal with it my own stuff, my own heart, my own stuff. So I think I had it for a while. I just figured out ways to avoid it and distract myself. And then it finally hit 2015. That's when I had like rock bottom, had to deal with it,
Do you know if either your mom or your dad ever struggled with?
Dude, I just talked to my brother about that the other day. My mom definitely struggled with depression during her fight with cancer, which, that's kind of normal, right? It's like, I don't know if that necessarily is hereditary. My dad, though, as I talked to my brother and rehashed some of the things that happened, because he was older than me, so he knew a lot more that happened. I definitely think my dad struggled with depression. My dad was definitely labeled like sensitive. A lot of the things you hear about me and my brother, but anger issues, my brother, so all these things where you're like, man, why is my dad reacting that way when you hear stories? And it's like, well, sounds like he was pretty anxious and sounds like he was pretty sad, And so, I struggle with the hereditary thing because I'm like, who cares, But again, if we're going to view it as like diabetes or something physical, then, it could be hereditary. And,
So Kelly, to your point of kind of nature versus nurture, that's like a little bit where I'm going with this question, but also something that I've become super fascinated with over the past year, especially, but for the last couple of years, is inherited trauma. It's like cellular level inherited trauma. And we've been seeing actually a Chinese medicine doctor. She's like everything to us. Her name is Anna. I'll mention her all the time. So I'm just going to say that right now. And we go see her once a month. We do acupuncture and she does like all the physical stuff, but it's basically a therapy session at the same time. Because I really trust in her a ton, and she's so she's so knowledgeable, just well researched, well read, everything. So she gave me this once called "It Didn't Start with You," and I don't know if you've read it, Kelly, but just being in this world, I think you'd love it. And it is fascinating to go back and understand that all the way back to like your great grandparents, you could have inherited literally at a cellular level, this trauma that you're coping with, and of course you don't know how to cope with it. They didn't even know how to cope with it, and they didn't cope with it. So, and it's cool because I'm now starting to see memes and stuff with people saying like, you may not be responsible for your issues, but it's your responsibility to fix it for your kids, for the future generations. And I don't know that that's clicking a lot with people just yet, or that people really understand what that means. Is there anything you want to touch upon that topic, Kelly?
Yeah, I love what you said. You know, we might not be responsible for, especially I see a lot of clients with childhood trauma, and certainly a child is never responsible for abuse or, you know, terrible things going on in their home. But I think you're right. You know, we can explain the behavior, but we all have that responsibility to do something about it. We can't control what happened to us in the past. We can't control what parents we got assigned to, but we can absolutely say, okay, this is how I am now. I didn't have control over this, but now I do. Now I can control how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And it seems very in line with that book and kind of the teachings that you had been reading too. And I love that because again, we are powerless in a sense, but we are also empowered at the same time from this moment forward.
Especially now, we have so many tools and resources, and like, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning actually, but part of what I like was super jazzed to do this about is like, you don't have to always talk to an expert. I mean, while you are an expert in this field, but like, you can just talk to your friends and your family who have through their experiences and through books that they've read and whatever, and learn so much. So that book, I'll link it. I'm going to create like a resources guide after this so people can have that, and I'll pop that on there too because it's so fascinating. I think you'll love it.
Can I ask a question before
yeah.
we go to our next topic that came in on Facebook? The question being, like, how or when do you know if there's actually a chemical imbalance, or how do you decide if it's just a lack of sort of mental or emotional control? And Kelly, I don't know if is there like a litmus for that? Can somebody download a quiz that they could take to figure out, am I chemically imbalanced or?
Right. Like I think Malik was saying, when you go to the doctors, we do, you know, as health professionals, as mental health, there are certainly, you can even look online for depression screening, anxiety screening, even trauma screening. So you could take kind of an at-home test. But I always say it's such a personal thing too. So whether it's sitting down with a psychiatrist, your general practitioner, a therapist, and just saying like, hey, these are the symptoms that I've been having. I'm not really sure. Any of us can guide you down the path, whether it's medication, whether it's just therapy, whether it's, you know, you just need some self-help books, whatever. I think it's so individualized. Again, just saying, hey, this is what's going on, talking it through with a health professional, and then seeing which path is the best for you.
Yeah.
But do you guys actually, is there legit like I'm so ignorant in this. You take a blood test and then like, you're like, oh, your blah, blah, blah levels are too high or they're too low. And so that's the imbalance?
Not necessarily for like depression or anxiety, but certainly there are underlying things that can cause that, you know, certain thyroid issues, chemical, literally like blood disease type issues. So I think it's a good idea too, to get a full physical as well with blood work, just to see, you know, is there some kind of physical condition that is causing these symptoms in me? If not, if that's all clear, okay, then we move on to, again, maybe it's seeing a therapist, a psychiatrist, seeing, okay, what exactly is necessary.
Okay, cool. Malik, you've talked to us a little bit just about your therapy journey. You've seen several therapists. You have one therapist. What's your?
Dude, I've been rocking with my boy for 5 years now, man. Crazy to think it. So he is a licensed mental health counselor, LMHS, correct? I think. LMHC. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And he originally, so to be honest, originally when I went to go see him, he's licensed in Christian counseling, and then he's also clinically licensed. So I grew up going to like Christian counselors in my church who were just there. They got a certificate for like 2 months of like training, and then they could just sit with you, right? But he has a doctorate, in licensed mental health counseling, but he also does Christian counseling. So I've veered away from the Christian counseling over time, and then we kind of just go like CBT, which is cognitive-based therapy. Use a lot of that's talk therapy. That's that's a lot of the mindset stuff. That's a lot of the what happened to you, right? A lot of therapy is like what happened to you, where you at now, and how do you go forward, right? That's pretty much talk therapy, at least in my head. Like, you know, and so a lot of the early years of therapy were like, hey, here's what happened in your childhood. A lot of sitting with like grieving, right? Like talking earlier, like what happened to you. A lot of grieving and never and grieve. You're always gonna be grieving and never take away that grieving moment. Like it's not fair, like period. And you sit with that and you go, that's not, I had no choice. I had no say in that. I wasn't, you know, and I sat with that a lot. And then over time, you just start going like, okay, like where am I now? How did I get here? This is okay. This is how I got here. But and then you go like, where do I want to go? Like, all right, what kind of life do I want to live? What kind of life do I want to make for myself? And that's not like linear either. Like it happened. There's times where I'm like, no, like what happened? And then there's times where I'm like, no, like where do I want to go? And sometimes I can't focus on where I want to go. Sometimes I don't want to focus on what happened to me. I want to
you not being able to focus. You
yeah, man. Crazy. No one ever thought. But it's been helpful sometimes. You know, there's been moments where I just not answer back his texts. I haven't shown up to therapy a lot of times where Kelly, you probably have a lot of no call, no show type. Maybe, you know, I just, there's been times where I've been so depressed where I'm like, ignore his call and I'll pay the cancellation fee just because I don't want to go. Right. And there's been times where he called me out and he was like, look, I'm not, you know, like had some hard conversations of like, hey, this is your fourth one missed, and you know, like hard conversations, and I've had to be like, no, I really want to, you know, do this. And so we've had our ups and downs in therapy, but overall, I mean, I've gone to the therapist more than I've gone to the doctor, which is not good, but I've gone to the therapist. I was going every week for 3 years, and now I go once a month. And now that the COVID's back, I'm just trying to see him once a week, you know, through FaceTime and the telecom service, stuff like that. But it's been helpful. I mean, I've tried out different forms of therapy with him. You know, there's different forms of CBT. There's, you know, I'm in one now called ACT, is acceptance commitment therapy, which has been the most help. It has given me the most control over my mental health, period.
Yep, that's what I do most of now. I do a lot of, actually, I have CBT books sitting right here next to me. But I love CBT, and then the ACT therapy as well. Because the premise of that is it's basically, instead of trying to make these feelings go away and disappear, we just accept that they are what they are. You say, okay, I'm anxious right now. You give it space. You let it sit, and then you're like, okay, how am I going to get through this? It's not about, again, waving a wand and being like, I don't want to feel anxious again. Go away. It's about sitting with it and coping with it. So I love that myself too.
Yeah. Yeah. Except like, so yeah, it's so good. And though, cause the more, oh man, I could have this conversation all day with you, Kelly. the more I've tried to wish my depression and anxiety away, it comes back. It's this compounding process, right? So, right, like one of the things in ACT, one of the exercises you do is he tells you not to think about a yellow car. Mm-hmm. And now for the next minute, I want you to not think about a yellow car. Yeah. And so what are you going to do for the next minute? You're going to go, don't think about a yellow car. And you're thinking about a yellow car the whole time, right? So it's the same thing with anxiety. It's like, don't have anxiety. Don't have anxiety. You're literally more anxious by the end of that exercise. Yep. And so kind of like softening that anxiety, softening into it, leaning into it, accepting it, like, I have anxiety. Okay, I have anxiety. That's okay. And the more like the self-compassionate posture that you have towards yourself and towards the anxiety literally changes it. Because if I'm okay with it, you know, if I'm okay with having anxiety, sometimes I kind of talk to my anxiety. I'm like, hey, anxiety, I'm going to bring you along with me today. I'm going to have my day. I'm going to have a meeting. I'm going to go do this. And you're just going to come along and you're going to be there and you're going to feel, I'm going to feel you and cool, but I'm not going to let you stop me. Because a lot of times I would try to wait until the anxiety is over and then go live my life. So, oh man, I could talk about that all day. Because I've been like, there's one book, I don't know if you read it. It's literally called it's how to get out of your mind and into your life. It's been my favorite book. It has exercises. I'll show you right now. It's been my favorite. Oh my gosh. Okay, my favorite book right here. Yeah, it's like the primer on this form of therapy, and it's newer. So, I mean, I don't know how, how that works as far as like it being tested, tried and true, but there's this dope TED talk that he gives. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a really dope TED talk. It's about 8 minutes long. And he talks about like how he came across this form of therapy. It's been like 20, 30 years in the making for this, but yeah, it's been helpful. It's been super helpful.
Great.
That's awesome. You want to jump in on therapy real quick?
Yeah, it's interesting, Malik, that you said that you would pay the cancellation fee just so that you wouldn't have to go, because just like when we go see our current Chinese medicine doctor, Anna, that's like, we say, you don't cancel your appointment with Anna.
You just don't.
One, the appointments are so great and it's so beneficial that it's something that we look forward to, and that's what sort of reminded me of where I am currently, because previously I felt better just knowing that I had a therapy appointment coming. Just knowing if I can just make it 3 days, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, yes, there's only 2 more days before I can go meet with Diane and just sit in her tiny little office, which is a little bit too cold, and I'll be too comfortable, and I'll almost nod off, and but it's the most relaxing fucking hour of my whole week. I was so stoked.
Text me your number. I want to go to that. That sounds awesome.
Dude, it's so excellent.
We sound so inviting.
I thought therapy was great. I have literally walked with multiple people to introduce them to therapy, or what does a therapy center look like. I teach at Florida Gulf Coast University, which has a counseling and psychological services center. I have had conversations with students, told them about my personal journey, at least the broad strokes, and then I said, let's just go over there and look at the place. This way you'll know where it is, what it looks like, and that when you open the door, there aren't like people pulling their hair out and hanging from the ceiling and dying, and I don't know, freaking out in white lab coats, and it's just not like that. Like, that's not what therapy is like. Maybe it used to be 50 years ago or something, but yeah, not anymore. So I think therapy is super beneficial. I think you should find the right therapist so that you are looking forward to going to therapy. That would be the ideal.
That's the hardest part, though. And I know probably people who are watching this are probably like, yeah, I'm ready to go. But like, you don't understand. Like, I don't have any, like, everyone is weird. Like, everyone looks weird. You know, everyone asks for my therapist all the time. My therapist is probably the complete opposite demographic of me, right? Well, he's an older white male, you know, and he just doesn't look like someone I would talk to, right? Like, culturally. And so it's hard to get comfortable and build that rapport. And Kelly, I'm sure you have all these different things that you probably do to build rapport with your clients and stuff. But on the front end, man, like just going on Psychology Today and looking up like the therapists in town, it can be like defeating as heck. Like, you could just be like, no, you're judging them. You're going, no, this person looks weird, feels weird. You want to get the right feel. But you got to shop around, dude. You got to might have to consider like telecom, FaceTime therapy, or Talkspace, or one of those things, because sometimes it's just hard to find someone in your area that you feel comfortable with. And if you don't have the rapport with them, you're not going to open up. Right. And so, like, for example, my Black friends who are like, hey man, like, you know, like any Black therapists I could talk to, because I want someone that could, no, I don't. You know, do you have any Spanish? No, not really. I don't, you know? So it's like hard because I think it's like 2% of psychologists, therapists are African American. So sometimes, dude, you might not have an option to get that where you're at, you know? So it can be tough, dude. It can be tough. And so I want to validate that struggle. If you're feeling that way in the comments, like I can validate that it's really tough to find one.
Hey, if you go shopping for a DJ, you might not jive with the first one who you meet. And if you're looking for a photographer, you might not get feels from the first one who you find and want
happens all the time, yeah.
With you, so, or be, you know, in your home with your family or something. So yeah, I think you should totally take the time and read reviews, and if you're comfortable talking to people, getting recommendations, without a doubt. And the other thing, just briefly, that y'all were talking about is taking your anxiety with you. Malik, you said, you know, you're like, come on, we're going to spend the day together. I am a big practice that was helpful to me was deciding that when I felt anxious, that was a physical way, a chemical way that my body and not really that my body maybe even, but more that my mind was talking to me. If I'm feeling anxious in that specific moment, there might well be a reason why I'm feeling that anxiety, and that warm feeling that I would get, that tingly feeling that I would get. And then most of us know that then that the tired feeling comes after that, and then you're exhausted, and there's chemical reasons for all that. But I started to appreciate the fact that my body was trying to communicate something to me, and that in and of itself was a win. It's talking, I'm listening, that's progress, and that can be enough progress. You don't necessarily have to know what it is that your mind body is trying to communicate to you. Just the fact that you're aware that your mind body is communicating to you means you're already next level. Okay, so that's great progress. And then if a counselor can help you with some techniques on how to interpret that or what you could do next, then that's great. But realizing that it's there, taking it with you, I love that, Malik. Like, get it its own backpack. Whatever, you can dress it up. But yeah, denying that it's there, I would say is not healthy. Yeah, talk to it. I've talked out loud to it.
And also another thing that I realized, because you can get caught up in it can really trick you, right? Because you could end up arguing with it all day. And I did that for years. And that's the sort of like pitfall of it, is that you can get so caught up in you're having anxiety. Why are you having anxiety? Well, is it because, and I could find a reason right now why I could find a reason anytime. I could find a reason when it's completely calm in my life to find anxiety. So sometimes when I get that feeling, so acknowledging that it's there and then not giving it too much attention. Because, all right, so it goes into some fun stuff, but like neural pathways, right? You create a neural pathway to certain things. So in your brain, the best way to explain it, Kelly, help me out, is like the more you give something attention, you create a stronger pathway to something. So if every time you think about, like Maslow, right? Every time you think about cookies, every time you get sad, you eat cookies. Now you create a neural pathway every time now your brain wants cookies every time it's sad, right? So you create this very strong connection between cookies and sadness. And then boom, you created a pathway, and now it's strong, and now you can't fight it. It's so strong, it feels like second nature. So the same thing for me is like, anytime I feel this, I do this, and now I create this connection, and now I'm stuck in this like thing. So a lot of times I just try not to give it too much attention. Like, oh, I'm anxious, now I have to give it attention. No. Okay, that's anxiety. If there's something that I need to do about the anxiety, then I'll do it. But right now, it's just anxiety. Like, it's just anxiety. It's just depression. You're not in danger. You're okay. So sometimes I do that. Like, you're okay. I real quick, I scan and go, oh, Yasmin's mad at me. Why did I do something wrong? I scan and I go, okay, not too much there. All right, now just keep living, keep moving. I try not to give it too much, because then I'll get stuck there. Stuck in the whole thing.
I'm chomping at the bit here for a second. I've been taking notes because you've said a few things that have triggered a few thoughts in my mind, and then I think we're almost getting to the point of you guys sharing some tools that you have for these things. So a couple things that just came to mind for me. We're huge Tony Robbins fans in this household, and we've attended some of his events and really love where he comes from. So he says, where focus goes, energy flows. I mean, it's not like he coined that. Obviously, lots of people say that in some fashion, but that's what you're saying. Where focus goes, energy flows. That's the yellow car example. That's all of that. It doesn't matter, positive, negative. You're focusing on it. That is where your energy is going to go. And those neural pathways you're talking about, and we're talking about habit building there. And God, habits can be the hardest thing to break, especially those old school ones. Man, cookies and sadness. My mental health issue has been with food, for sure. Starting from when I was kid. And Matt walked me over to the counseling and psychological services building at FGCU, and I met with this very nice lady twice. Her office was not so tiny. It was very well lit. And I think I only went the 2 times because I just had to like word vomit, and then she gave me a couple of tools, and I was like, I feel better now. Which was nice. I mean, I'm not to say that I'm like cured. I still struggle with my food psychology stuff, but that was interesting. And kind of to go with that is, you said I have anxiety, and something for me, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease 10 years ago. And about a year, maybe a little longer ago, I started saying exactly what I just said. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease instead of my Crohn's or I have Crohn's, because for me, when I would say my Crohn's, it's a way of you owning it. You say it, your brain hears it, you believe it, and then it's part of you. And I was like, nah, I'm not, this thing doesn't own me. So like, your anxiety is not really your anxiety. It's just anxiety, like you just said. And I love that, because language is so freaking important. Whole different topic for a whole different time, but how we choose to communicate that to ourselves is hugely important too. So, and then the last thing I wanted to say was alternative therapies too. Like, as somebody that's the only time I've ever talked to a therapist, was those 2 times that I went. So I'm like the baby of the group for sure. But in terms of alternative therapies, I actually, when I was reading that book that I was telling you about, the Inherited Trauma book, I was at this Ayurvedic health retreat center up in Northern Florida that was fantastic. And they do all sorts of alternative therapies. And one of them is energy healing, like an energy aura healing kind of a deal. And I was stoked for this, because I told Anna, I was like, Anna, I feel like in my healing journey, I've like plateaued. Like but I'm still having trouble. So I need you to like mix me up some herbs and just make me better. Like let's go next level. And you just said this, Malik, or both of you said it, but she basically like looked at me and was like, you need to go sit in a room and deal with your emotions. Like, there's only so much I can poke you with, so many needles. There's only so much I can do physically, until emotionally that mind-body connection is so real. You have to work with that. And I was like, okay, I hear you. So I went and I did this energy session, and I'll have to talk about that some other time, because it was like out of this world experience. It was so cool. But something, Malik, that you said that really rang true with me was that I went through this whole traumatic experience, or like it brought up a traumatic experience. The healer like healed it off of me. Great. And then I was like, interesting that, to me, I said, I just felt like that was so interesting that came up that way, because like, I've totally forgiven that at this point. I feel at peace with that. And she's like, yeah, but like 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old you didn't. They're pissed. They're like still pissed from back then. They're pissed. They like stored that in somewhere in you, and you've been carrying it with you. And that's something you have to look at it that way. I thought that was super interesting. So I just to say, all these therapies, finding the right therapist, absolutely, like, do your research, do your thing. But if you hear of a different therapy that sounds interesting, like, and doesn't sound like it could potentially be harmful, like, then try it. I mean, you never know. So, okay, sweet. Now, in an effort to create some structure in this very casual show that we have going on here, Malik's laughing because when I called Malik the other day, I was like, he and I are very similar in many ways. And one of them is that we go like 150% when we do something. And so when I called him, I was like, yo, I'm not trying to make this a thing. I'm not trying to make this, it's not a podcast. We're just hanging out. We're just having a conversation. But of course, I've got notes and bullet points and like times.
It's a podcast. It's a podcast. Here we are.
It's fine. It's fine. So I asked both of you, please, to come with 4 different tools to share with our audience. And 2 of those will be abstract. So something that's mindset, really in the brain more based, and something that we can conceptualize that way. And then 2 concrete. So Malik, you already popped that book up on the screen. I don't know if that will be one of your concrete ones, but Kelly, I'd love to invite you to go first. And if you could just, expand a little bit upon what you're sharing and how it's useful. And really quickly before you start is, I know it's 12:30. I was hoping to only go an hour on these, but we started almost 10 minutes late thanks to technology. And also, guys, it's no big deal. This is casual. So if you have to pop off. You two can't pop off. We have to finish. But go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, so 2 kind of abstract things that I love, and they both align with each other. Meditation, yoga, kind of in one block, and then grounding. And it brought me back to a workshop that Meli and I did in January. She led an amazing grounding exercise. And the goal of, meditation, yoga, really grounding yourself, is to just be in the moment with who you are with or what you are doing. So many times we're on our phone, we're multitasking, and life is just flowing by. And all of a sudden we're like, wow, how is it Friday already? How did a year go by? How did 5 years go by? And I think anything that can bring you back to the present moment. And I love, a lot of my clients, especially those with anxiety, are really big fans of, transcendental meditation. Maybe you're not at that level yet, but even just popping on a YouTube video that guides you through some guided imagery, even if it's 5 minutes, taking some quiet time. That's why I love yoga. It's almost a double-edged sword, because you're alone with all your thoughts, but you're also alone with all your thoughts. And how often does that ever happen? So things like that, I think, can be very beneficial to your mind and body. And some concrete tools that I love. I know, Malik, you were talking about CBT and ACT, and this, any of these books, like there's so many self-help books. This is a decent one. It's CBT in 3 weeks. There's a lot of, again, if you can't afford therapy or something like that, you can always try something at home. There's so many amazing books out there. Again, I love cognitive behavioral therapy because it's more concrete. It's something you can write out and do, and it really challenges the way that you think and makes you question your thoughts instead of making them so automated. That book that Malik had held up, I love too. That's something, again, you can do on your own or work with a therapist on. I think it's called, is it Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life?
Yeah, Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. I'll post the link in this video after, once I.
Yep, that's a great one too. There's a lot of other books on ACT. And also too, simple things like I will often have my clients do a worry journal. So on one side of the paper, let's say on the left side, I have them list all of their worries, and I have them really go there. So your worst case scenario, you write down everything you're worried about, anything that's swirling around in your head, write it on the left side of the paper. And then on the right side, either you write out or you really think through, if this does happen, how am I going to get through this? And this is a scary exercise. I get a lot of resistance from clients by doing this. Sometimes they say, I'm worried about my mom dying. And I challenge them to go there and say, like, let's say this worst case scenario does happen. Who is there to support you? Who would you turn to? Perhaps it's their social supports or their faith or something else. But a lot of times we get a lot of anxiety from thinking about, we don't know how we'd handle something. We don't feel like we can do it. We don't believe in ourselves. But if we go there and we kind of work through all of our worst case scenarios, that can be helpful, because if it does happen, and sometimes it does, it's kind of going back to the point where you say, like, I'm just going to pretend I don't have anxiety, or I'm going to wish it away. These worst case scenarios could happen. And just knowing that you have a plan to deal with them builds confidence in yourself to make that happen. And so there's also some CBT worksheets in certain books like that I'll have my clients do too. That's a more concrete thing, writing it down.
Okay. Sorry. Our Instagram live video just ended, and I'm not sure why, so Matt was just showing me. I don't know why I did that. Just go live again just so that it can finish up. Okay, so that's super helpful. Also, I love what you just said, using the example of I'm afraid that my mom's gonna die. Like, and you're saying, like, these are things that could happen.
Yeah.
No, like, she's going to die. Like, that's absolutely 100%. We are all going to. And I really actually wanted to touch upon fear today, but that's gonna be a whole separate episode, because fear is just like at the core of all of the things, especially anxiety and depression. But those are great. Thank you. Anything else?
Just gratitude list too. Again, it's just a way to ground yourself. And yes, there's a lot of crap going on in the world. There's a lot of bad stuff. But even taking the time, even if it's before bed, to just, what were 3 things that went really well today that I'm happy for? Even if it's like, my heart's still beating, I can walk, I'm healthy, my kids are healthy, just even getting back to the basics. But there's always something to be grateful for. And that alone gives us gratitude to the universe. And I feel like we get it back. And it's just reminding ourselves that there are some good things in our life.
Love it. Thank you. Yes, we're big gratitude practices in the Neubek household. Malik, talk to me.
So good.
Cool.
Those are so good. Seriously. I was like, it's funny because I think about all the things that help me. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like any of them. Like, I don't like meditation at all. Like I do not like it. Okay, I'm just gonna start off by saying that I do not like it.
Yeah, that's totally. Some people don't.
Is it helpful though?
No. It's very helpful, and that's the thing. And I do it. For the last like 3-4 months, I've done it almost every day, right? Because I don't so in this book that I've been reading, how to get out of how to get out of your mind into your life, it talks about two different types of pain. It talks about the pain of presence and then the pain of absence. And then so the pain of presence is like literally what you have to, if you when you sit and meditate, even just sitting in 2 minutes of silence, just 2 minutes, I'm in touch with all the pain, fear, depression, disappointments, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, all that is just sitting there all the time. And so in the present, being present in those meditative sessions, right, it's so painful. It's like, oh my God, like what do? I want to go and run. I want to go and watch Netflix. I want to go and eat. I want to disconnect from the presence. And so what I do, which I have been doing, like admittedly, like especially through this Corona thing, is I've just been trying to avoid being present. I don't want to be in the reality of like the world, what I feel, the fear and the danger that I feel exists right now. And so I've been watching shows and I've been doing stuff. And ultimately the next pain comes, which is the pain of absence. And so I miss out on all these things happening. And I miss out on being present with my wife, I just, all these things that I miss out on. So then ultimately now I've created more pain, which is the pain of absence. And so pain of presence, pain of absence. So for me, as it comes to the tools, all those tools, I would say, meditation, it's like going to the gym, man. It's like, this sucks for this 45 minutes or hour you're in the gym. You're just like, I know some people like it, but those are like crazy cyborg people, right? But I hate going to the gym. I hate before going sucks. Like I'm like, should I go? Do I have to go? But when I go, bro, after I'm done, oh, this is great. I should do this. I could do this all day. I should do this every day. But then the next day, I'm like, so all my everything she just said, that Kelly said, is things that I would say too. Meditation, it's just how I view them, right? It's just like how we view them, because a lot of times people say meditation and we have a perception of what it is. Right. You don't have to feel good doing meditation to do it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to enjoy it. And you don't have to be good at it either. I still suck at meditation. It's not about good or bad. It's about the act of doing it, focusing on your breath, the fact that, and you will get better at it, but you don't have to be hard on yourself about it. So meditation for sure. Gratitude. I hate gratitude. It makes me feel, I have a lot of shame around gratitude, where it's like, Malik, you should be happy about this, but you're not. So, and then my gratitude journals could end up being like these shame sessions where I'm like, look at all the things you have in your life. You should be happy about this, but you're not, because you're an ungrateful little piece of, whatever. But what it does after the fact is that it literally grounds you. You find a place of, you know what? I could focus on these good things today. I don't have to focus on all the things that are missing. I don't, so again, during the time, I can't say that I'm enjoying it. So my all my things are just what Kelly said, but just giving you like how I view it. But gratitude, meditation for sure. To me, I'm, and it depends on who you are. So I'm very abstract. So I like to read something and try to understand it. And just the act of reading something makes me feel a little bit better already. So me finding a new book about mental health for me is helpful because it motivates me to like work on it, but my problem also is living too abstract, and I don't kind of get into the meat of things. I need to do more action and less thinking and feeling my way around stuff. Right. So a lot of times my therapist is like, you're trying to feel your way into an action when you just need to act your way into a feeling. Don't worry about if the feeling's there. Don't worry about if you agree with, just act, do what you need to do. Act, which is all what ACT is, acceptance, commitment, therapy. It's live based on your values, not based on what you feel.
Yes.
And so disconnect, which is counterintuitive to me, because I'm all about feeling. I'm like, how does it feel today, people? How are we feeling? We're feeling good. Let's go do some good feeling stuff, right? But I have to go, no, what do you value? And then go do what you value, even though you feel like doing this. So that would be my biggest thing right now, is helping me, is that mindset of ACT, acceptance, commitment, therapy, right? Like that's been helpful to me. And then obviously like exercising, physically exerting myself. And then, you know, that's been helpful. I mean, all the things that, you know, I feel like everybody knows what they need to do. You got to go see a therapist. You got to, you know, like those are things. Definitely, if you don't have a therapist or someone, get a therapist. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to even give you a cop out. Like, you know, go find a therapist. Do what you got to do to find a therapist. Keep searching. Spend the money. If you found out today you were diagnosed with cancer or whatever, you would be finding the best. You would go everywhere to find the best option for you. So I would say do that. Go find a therapist, because no matter what, and I was ending with this, I know I'm going long.
You're good.
There was a part in my life where I would try to self-talk myself. I would try to encourage myself. I would try to do gratitude. I would go work out, and I still was stuck. There were times where I couldn't even get out of my bed, and I would be like, get up, Malik. You have so many things to be. You have so many this. And I'm stuck. I'm stuck. So at the end of the day, if you're trying to do it on your own, man, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people do it, but I don't know if you can do it on your own. So find an advocate, find someone who's with you in it, you know?
You're not going to cure your own cancer.
Yeah.
Not without reading some books or talking to some people or going to see a professional.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to add anything? That was great. Thank you.
I'm going to try to say everything that Malik just said now in yet another way.
Exactly.
Which honestly, that's like sorry, I know you're not going to forget what you're going to say. I just have to say that I know that one of my biggest things that's been helpful to me in my personal development journey, and just especially these last few years, is realizing that it doesn't really matter how many times you hear something. It matters how you hear it. So if you you could tell me the same thing over and over and over, and I could have heard it 10 different ways. And then the 11th person who comes along and says it some other way, they just inflected their voice differently or used one different word. And I'm like, huh.
And when you hear it, the time of your life, when you hear it, the time and place.
Exactly. There's so much. So I feel like there can be no shortage of perspectives and of ways of taking things. I love everything you just said. Matt just ran. Oh, he's coming back. Okay, good. I was going to say gratitude wise, like a lot of people have they know I'm super vocal about that. I think just being as grateful as you can, as often as you can, it almost feels like it's a fad now, like gratitude, left, right, everywhere, gratitude. But like, no, it's for real, y'all. Like it's a real thing. And some people will say, somebody give me a gratitude journal. I'm like, I did 3 things in the morning and 3 things at night. I'm like, I'm grateful for the food in my mouth. And like, they're kind of like just pushing it off, and it feels more like a chore. We tried for a while to share every morning and night. Give me 3 things. And sometimes we still do that, but it didn't feel authentic enough. So what he and I do is more so like when we're walking through the grocery store and somebody has just stopped, or an airport or whatever, and somebody's just like stopped in the middle, like their world, we're just living in it. Like, you know, hi, what am I supposed to like go around you? Like, what are you doing? Are you aware that there are people around you? You know, like something that pisses you off, anything, traffic, whatever. To be able to stop and just say, well, I'm grateful for that reminder that I don't want to be that way. I'm grateful that that's reminded me that the next time I'm distracted on my phone and walking with my cart, I'm not going to stop in the middle of the aisle or whatever. So I try to use everyday experiences all the time to pull me into gratitude instead of just listing stuff, which we have found to be particularly helpful. Go ahead.
I have too many tools that I would want to share. The reason why I stepped out for a second is I was trying to find, I have you could use like a coloring book, right? If you have kids and your kids already have coloring books, borrow one of theirs. If you want to get an adult coloring book which requires some more detail, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're coloring naughty things. That's not what an adult coloring book is, if you don't know. My coloring book was a book of mandalas. And so there are these geometric shapes, if you're not familiar with them. I got a coloring book and a set of colored pencils and a little pencil sharpener, and I kept that by my bed, and that was one of the things that if I wasn't reading or journaling, I would color. And I had no idea initially why that was helpful. But it's very much about, Kelly mentioned it first, being in the moment. And Malik, it sounds like, is super on board with that and how helpful it is. And I've heard so many tricks about how to bring yourself back into the present moment. And Exercising also can be it. I like to ride my bike. And I road bike, right? So I'm doing 16, 18, 20, 22 miles an hour on my bike down the side of the road. There's traffic going by me. I cannot be thinking about other things while I'm riding my bike, or I'm going to be in an accident. So it forces me to be very much in that instant. And if you're coloring something that's very detailed and you're trying to stay between the lines, that forces you to stay in the moment. If it's meditating, please investigate meditative techniques that do not ask you to clear your mind. You do not want to clear your mind. You cannot have a clear mind. You can't empty your mind. That's not what the mind is. That's like trying to not think about the color yellow or whatever it is. You want to do directed meditation. You want to be having a recording or a live person, or if it's yoga, or if it's Pilates, or if it's a spin class, have someone direct what it is that you're doing so that you don't have to be doing both of those jobs, right? Have that guidance, somebody who can bring you into the moment so that your mind can decompress from all the other crap that it's normally wrestling with, right? Put your mind on something pleasant, do some nice imagery so that you can escape all the shit that you normally torture yourself with. And I don't know if she's still on, but I saw that my sister joined us at one point, and a very valuable technique that she gave me, maybe I'll have it be my last tool that I'll share, is if you're having a moment, right, if you're freaking out, I think this would probably work with depression also, because depression can very much be inside of our head, even if it's chemical also, and Kelly, you can speak to this, is my sister said, just go outside and look around and name everything that you can see. The blue sky, the leaves on the trees, the trunk of the tree, the grass. I can see that the grass is moving. Engage your senses. What are you feeling? How does the sun feel on your skin? Say it out loud. What can you smell? What can you hear? All of those things are happening in that very instant, and they will take you out of whatever has got you preoccupied about the future. It will pull you out of whatever has you depressed that already happened in the past. And at least for a couple of minutes, you can be now where everything is actually okay. At least for a couple of minutes. Give yourself a break. Give yourself 2 minutes.
That works in a dimly lit bedroom. If I just can attest, if he's had some like borderline, I think I'm kind of feeling anxious right now, and we're like getting ready for bed, and he'll just start naming things in the room. Like, I see this painting, I see this, I see that, and we'll kind of just talk through it. That's been a cool tool that you've taught me. And another thing about meditation that he said that I just want to leave anybody who's skeptical on meditation or is like, I suck at it, the clear your mind thing is so important. And somebody said it this way that I loved so much, is asking your brain to stop thinking is like asking your heart to stop beating. I'm going to say it one more time. Asking your brain to stop thinking is like asking your heart to stop beating. It doesn't work that way. So that was hugely helpful for me, because I've been on my meditation practice for about 3 years now, and I have some days where I'm like, this was like the worst. Like, what am I doing? It's not working, but it's absolutely worth it. So, okay, y'all, this was amazing. Thank you so much. Real quick, were there any more questions or any comments that we want to share?
I just posted a bunch of like 4 books that are really important in my journey.
Word. Oh, thank you. And I'm gonna like make a little cheat sheet basically of tools that we chatted about today. I'll probably just throw it onto the Instagram. I don't know what I'm doing, guys, because this is just a casual thing. It's not organized. I have to keep telling myself. And then, so next week, we will be here again at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time live with the topic being time management and routine. So excited about that one. So not necessarily as heavy from a positive, could be negative situation, but something that I think, especially right now, a lot of people are trying to figure the hell out. I've been trying to figure out time management always, forever. So I think we always probably are. Matt is bringing the newest member of our fam jam over. So I just have to pause for a moment. This is Sophie. Say hi, Sophie.
Oh, snap.
Come on.
Oh, snap.
Giant head in here.
She's just
Cat out of the bag.
Tiny head, giant ears. Hello. Hello, world.
we really, she came out like we were thinking we were gonna get one from a litter in like 14 weeks, and then our breeder was like, because she's hypoallergenic, we need a hypoallergenic cat. Anyway, and she called us like 2 days ago and was like, I have this one that you can have like now. And we were like, oh my God. So now we have a new cat. There she is. So that's Sophie. Next week, time management routine, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time back here. Audience, whoever tuned in live or is going to tune in, please let us know if there's anything topic-wise that you're interested in, what you like, what you don't like. Because again, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just happy to do this and engage with everybody. And I, in trying to be clever, thinking of things like, how would you close the show? The show, it's not a show, guys. It's just a conversation. But I was like thinking about squaring and how you square a negative number and a positive number and you get a positive result, always. And then I thought, and you thought you wouldn't use math in real life. Right? And then Malik, you just got to come up with like a little like ditty from
I got you.
So Kelly, Malik, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to say to the world?
I guess I'll just drop my socials.
Yeah.
My blog is kellysreality.com, and that's where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook too. And I'd love to connect with anyone on there. I post a lot of self-help articles and just kind of lighthearted how to survive this thing we call life. So again, I'd love to connect with anyone outside of here too. And Malik, what is your socials? I'm trying to find you too.
Which one? I have like 80 of
them. Yeah, I know he does. Well,
I'm so extra. No, my personal one is Malik _ Adigun at Instagram, and then this Facebook too is just Malik Adigun. I have a mental health page called Mental Man. On Instagram, it's the _mental_man_ because someone else took that, had to underscore it, but the _mental_man. We have a program we do called Curate Hope. We go into schools and help kids out. That's called Curate _Hope. I mean, I'll drop the links.
I didn't know about that one. That's awesome. The Mental Man, I love your Mental Man page. That like,
dude, I'm not gonna lie. I've really not posted on that too much. Of just mental health stuff.
Which is fine. You were for a while, and you've got enough content on there right now that people could go on and really
go back. There's enough content for sure. But other than my socials, I just want to say you guys are all really doing better than you think, and you're doing a really good job of handling a bunch of hard stuff. So I said this today. I'll say it again. Like, to everyone listening, is like, your best is good enough today. That's it. Like, your best is good enough today. And like, if you get anything, because I know if you're like me, you're gonna take everything you heard today and be like, oh, I gotta go do 100 things. But like, dude, like, take a deep breath. Your best is good enough today. If you do one thing healthy for yourself, you won today. So don't overwhelm yourself.
I love it.
You can do it.
All right, friends, have a beautiful Monday and remainder of your week.
Kelly, I really appreciate everything you said today. I'm gonna go follow you and stuff.
Oh, you too. Yeah, I'm trying to find you. So
yeah. We'll find
you. Well, I tagged both of you guys in the Mindset Squared Instagram. There is another Mindset Squared that already exists, but I only realized that until I was way too far down the hole. So there's no way I was going to be coming out of that. And they're not like super active. I don't even know really what they talk about. It's like real estate or something. But so I did tag both of you in the post on Instagram. Malik, I only tagged your Mental Man because I just thought that made it.
You're good.
And then I will just try, again, any recommendations people have for like a good way to keep this organized in terms of what would be most useful for links and like that kind of stuff, please let me know. But for now, I'm super grateful for both of you and thank you. And you're both doing better than you think always also.
Thank you.
I got you.
I need it.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.